Parliament's monitoring group has conducted a study on youth representation in Parliament. In studio now is the group's information officer, Phumlani, Dimon. Phumlani, let's talk about this study. Why did you conduct the study in the first place?
Well, one, there isn't much that is known about the age of MPs in general. Secondly, we wanted to check the average age of MPs and how much of those would be put under the category youth. Thirdly, as part of the People's Assembly's website drive to get MPs closer to the people, we decided to go and do a study into all of these issues, specifically the age, and to check whether there is much representation in terms of the numbers on the benches in the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces.
So your study found that 6% of MPs fall within that youth category, just 6%, youth category being 35 years and under. That is very, 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 very small number, isn't it?
Indeed, it's quite small, but one also has to take into account that even when we tried to get whether other African countries have this information freely available, we managed to get only our parliament, and there's not much that one can do in terms of comparison. Other comparisons, if one takes it to international countries, at 6%, it's low, but if you compare it with the International Parliamentary Union's findings, look, we're getting there, even though it's very, very low indeed compared to your average median age of voters, both in the country and internationally.
So the average age of a member of parliament in South Africa is 54 years old. Now, how much of this has got to do with proportional representation? Because if in a country as young as ours, if I was able to go and, campaign in my constituent, I get to know my people, they vote for me and so forth. Obviously, no matter how old I am, I get chosen by the people that are in front of me. So how much does proportional representation skew the numbers?
Look, it's a matter of, unfortunately, party political structures, how people get elected into positions. In terms of proportion, the biggest political party in parliament that has the youngest in terms of proportion would be the EFF. And then it's followed by the Democratic Alliance. Unfortunately, as you say, we have a young democracy. So those within the ANC, one takes it, who would have been the youth in '76 are currently some of them, the people that are sitting in parliament. Yeah. And that can be attributed to the way that people get elected. Within the ANC, it's branches, it's regions, that natural progression. Whereas within the DA, you have a different system where people apply to be members of parliament and members of provincial legislatures, and they go through a rigorous process of interviews. Thus, one sees that proportion favoring the opposition.
Are youth politically active? Are we seeing the numbers dwindling? As we're talking about the past year, you mentioned the fact that some of the ANC youth league leaders, from the past are now sitting in parliament, but there's no new breed coming up. What's going on with the youth?
Well, look, one takes it that, as I'd mentioned earlier, that the progression of movement across the different parties is different. Within the ANC, you do have the ANC Youth League, but you also have the Women's League. And then you have the mother body structure. And then all that, the natural progression and the movement upwards has to do with what branches do. Whereas with the AFF as a new party, almost its entire contingent of MPs are young people. And one hopes after the general election next year something changes. The DA has apart from the selection process of these interviews, it also uses its student organization in higher learning institutions, the DA student organization DASO, to channel some of its young leaders into parliament. One stands to see in future whether the EFF Student Command will either follow a similar route or it will stick with what has been tried and tested, which is the ANC formula of having the youth league, because quite a lot of what would have been your SASCO yesterday's leaders, which includes your Malusi Gigabas, there's quite a few of them that are in parliament that are not ministers, but one could count, have a head count of those leaders that would have come through that process. Also, hopefully, with the introduction of the EFF, and I know that the IFP has a youth brigade, in future, political parties can make more strides and to do more in trying to have the youth included in law making.
Just lastly, a quick one. Are you aware, what are the ratios, male to female, in Parliament?
Well, there are more females, fortunately, within that category of youth, both across the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. But one takes it, no one can say whether this was a conscious decision or it's a coincidental issue, because all these mostly come from the EFF and the DA, with only one person, I think one individual from the ANC falling within that category.
All right, fantastic stuff. Thank you so much for speaking with us. That was Phumlani Dimon from Parliament's Monitoring Group.